Navigating through a pandemic, what do the numbers tell us about the recovery? Here now is Steve Moore, FreedomWorks economist. So, Steve, as everybody tries to handicap, what does it mean as we see these spikes in various places around the country? One of the biggest questions is beyond the health question. What does it mean for the economy and the reopenings and the like? I was looking at this economist forecast for a much bigger GDP drop in the quarter from April to June of around 30%. Do you think that the contraction is going to be that gigantic?
Hard to tell. I mean, it's a really tough question you're asking, Melissa, but I think it's going to be around 1/3 reduction in our GDP in that quarter, which is catastrophically bad. And by the way, this is exactly the reason, Melissa, we cannot allow the economy to be shut down again. I mean, it's very prudent for states to take steps to, reduce any additional illnesses and hospitalizations and, God forbid, more deaths. But we can't go reverse course and shut down. We have to be smart about this. And states are going to have to look at what works and what doesn't. And one of the things they need to do is look at New York and basically just do exactly the opposite of what New York did, because New York has accounted for so many of the deaths and so many of the hospitalizations. And that means keeping nursing homes safe, which something New York did not do. But my view is we can keep Americans safe and we can keep this economy up and running if we do the right safety measures.
But if you look at all the data that's come through and you kind of try and put it together into one package, you see that, yes, it is the nursing homes and it is the minority communities where you have a lot of underlying health conditions, and also you have multi-generational families living together. That's where we saw the most fatalities and hospitalizations, because that's what we're really focused on, is not who's going to get it, but who's going to get it and die or become very sick. But those are also, Carla pointed this out earlier, those are also the places that have a big economic impact on the country. It is New York, it is Chicago, it is Miami, it is Dallas, it is LA. So it's hard to say, that the areas where the big concentration, that's also where the economy is. I don't know. You say New York shouldn't have shut down, but I far be it for me to say that Governor Cuomo has ever done anything right. But it is kind of past us now. We are on the other side after the shutdown. So go ahead.
We've learned a lot. We know a lot more about this virus than we did 3 months ago. And so we do know exactly what you just said, that 90% of the cases are people who have some pre-existing condition, emphysema or heart disease or cancer or pulmonary disease. We know that a vast majority of the people who get really sick and potentially die are people who are over the age of 70. So you have to be very careful. I'm 60. You've got to be careful if you're my age. But
no, you're not.
So in other words, what I'm saying is, now that we know who is vulnerable, the right course of action is to protect those people. But young people are going to have to get out and get working if they want to. By the way, I don't think anybody should be forced to leave their home. But these decisions about whether to go back to work, whether to go outside, whether to go to a park or a playground, that should be the decision of individual Americans. It shouldn't be the decision of the politicians. And I think that's kind of where we are now. I think, by the way, Melissa, politicians in these states are going to have a really hard time locking up the economy again, even if they wanted to. And I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't think you'll see a surge in deaths.
If you look around New York, last night, the entire city plus was out in the streets, going to restaurants and everywhere else. It was like all hell had broke loose because people were finally free again. There's no way you're getting people back inside.
Exactly.
Let me ask you about the unemployment rate, because we saw that bounce back faster than expected. Where do you think it is going to be by Election Day? Because that is one of those, I know that's a big question. Do you think it'll be under 10% by November? That's what a lot of people are focused on. We're moving back more quickly than we thought, but at the same time, like we said, there are more cases. What are your thoughts?
I'm not quite as bullish as some of my friends in the White House are. Look, I think we are off to a good start. What's happened the last week or two has been a setback, no question about it, with the increase in caseload. That's frightened people, and that means maybe less economic activity in the short term. We dug ourselves into a big hole, and here's the reason why I think the unemployment is going to be probably over 10% over the next 6 months. Because we are dramatically underestimating right now what the real unemployment rate is, Melissa. We're counting people as not unemployed, people who are on the payroll of their companies because the government is paying their salaries, but they're not really working. That in all sense of things is an unemployed person. So the real unemployment rate is already about 20%, and to get it down to 10% is going to be a big feat to do. I think it's going to take probably 9 months to a year to get anywhere near unemployment rate of 8 to 10% because of the deep hole.
Wow. There are a lot of people that are choosing to stay home because they're getting paid. And I know people frown about saying that, but, I've talked to at least 5 business owners in the past 3 days
Yes.
who have asked their employees to come back, and their employees have said no, that they're collecting unemployment. And it's summer. It's beautiful out there. Like, no, I don't, I'm not in the state right now. I don't feel like coming back. And it puts the employer in the position of having to call unemployment, maybe getting someone on the phone, maybe not, and reporting that employee as refusing to take their job back. They just can't get people to come back to work. Do you think, real quick, when those benefits run out, will more people come back to work?
This is so tied to the questions you just asked me about what will the unemployment rate be 6 months from now, or even 4 months from now. It depends a lot on the policy decisions, Melissa, that we make over the next 2 to 4 to 6, 8 weeks. This phase 4 package, where it looks like it's going to happen, if it's anything like the Pelosi bill, which, by the way, extends for 6 more months this policy of extending those unemployment benefits, then we're going to, I have a study that we sent over to the White House today that shows that the number of unemployed people will be 10 million higher if we extend those unemployment benefits. Think of that, 10 million more people.
Crazy.
If we cannot extend the unemployment benefits, that would be a disaster. It's much, much smarter to cut the payroll tax, which would actually create 2.5 to 3 million jobs.